All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Biblical Hitmen. It's me, your host, Steven. We're back at it with another show. We're pumping them out. We're doing more lives, and it's awesome. There's always a pretty cool crowd sitting here and wanting to, I don't know, listen to the things I'm going to get into or what. But if anyone's here, it's your first time, you want to support the show, just hit that subscribe button over on YouTube, like the show, and share it with your friends, and comment on the video, anything that's on your mind. Also, I am on audio platforms, Apple Podcast, Spreaker, Spotify, all that good stuff, social medias. I'm out there in the interweb. So, but I hope everyone's having a good day. I know this is a last minute live. I didn't do any promotion on this live. Uh, so I'd be surprised if we get some people in here. But Kathy, hey, good to see you. What's going on? Yeah, today, what's the episode about tonight? I really want to kind of cover just the idea of wolves in sheep's clothing, right? Like that's where we'll kind of start things. And there's been a lot of that going on. And I think that not only the church, not only people out there in the Christian circle are experiencing these people on social media each and every day, but also in real life, going down the street, down the maybe there's people in the church, at your local church or whatever, but there are wolves in sheep's clothing, and there are ministers of the dark, uh acting as ministers of light. um and we're in an informational age. We we try to trust information that we're given on the reg, right? Because we know things like there's propaganda and there's false information, there's all of that stuff, misinformation, and people are trying to seek truth, and they're really trying to seek answers to a lot of the things wrapped up in our reality. One of the things being possible World War III and alien disclosure, all this stuff. What's up, Chris Brown? And we got Shannon in the house. What's going on, everybody? You know, I think that we're seeing so many wolves out there that are presenting themselves as good informational givers out there to the public. People who are very smart people, people that you would think trustworthy. Because uh, th- they're pushing information that is true, conspiratorial information that ends up coming to be true, and so they look like they're on our the good team. They look like they're on the side for truth, and they're really not. I think that a lot of these people are plants, and they're agents, and they're disinformation agents, or the not just that, but maybe pushing more of the spiritual components that the government ultimately wants the people to submit to. One of these things is Gnosticism, and I think Gnosticism is breaking loose right now, undetected, if you don't have a good foundation of what Gnosticism gets into, what they talk about, the theology of it. um, all that stuff just helps your discernment try and navigate who is who. One of these guys I want to bring up is Professor Ging. I can't really pronounce his last name, but I'll pull this up. And I wanted to share this with you guys because I saw this guy, uh, uh, I'd say about 3, 4 months ago, talking about the Illuminati, talking about the banking system, talking about all these interesting things that, I would say that we've been covering a little bit in here and there, throughout all the time frame of the show. Uh, and and he's a Gnostic. And I couldn't tell, right, until about maybe like 2 months ago, 2 months ago, I'd say, or so. I saw him promote a lot of videos trying to discredit Paul, a lot of videos of him talking about theology of Gnosticism. And he knew it very well. But then again, he's kind of got this title of a professor, and these are things he might have been researching at the time. But I think he definitely was believing in it. how he was promoting the things. You can tell them by their fruits. You can tell them by their actions and by the things that they say. And my discernment, Holy Spirit meter was just going nuts with this guy. Um, and so he came out recently, and he mentioned this, I believe, on a show. We'll play the clip of him talking about kind of where he stands. And so we'll run it here. So this is the dude. Everyone's seen this guy, right? Talks about the Illuminati, talks about these secret societies. He speaks against them, right? Like me and you would naturally speak against these things. But then he's a Gnostic, and he maybe a Luciferian. I don't know. I believe he went to Yale University, and I could be wrong. Who knows? That's just information that I've seen, and I haven't like dug extremely deep on this guy, and I don't need to really. With what he's about to just say here, I think this shows you where his allegiance is and where his belief system is and his spirituality. And you have to understand that that's a huge marker to have when you're talking about everything else. This is the foundation of everything else that he's talking about. Once you start to understand the context of why he is pushing the information he is, it's because he's a Gnostic, man. So we'll play this.
I have issues with the Islamic faith, okay? My major issue is that, I got a lot of hate for my lecture, okay? But I believe that organized religion, it changes over time. So maybe in the beginning, it had certain ideas, but in order to accommodate empire, in order to accommodate politics, it shifted over time to become much more conformist, but become much more static. I don't like that. My sympathies are toward connection with God directly, right? So rather have an intermediary telling you what God thinks, well, you should be able to feel God in your heart. And I mean, like, people have said I'm a Gnostic, or I'm a Luciferian. I don't know what these terms mean, okay? But I believe that we're all individuals with a divine spark in us. And so we should be all able to connect directly to God.
Okay, so he says he doesn't really know what those terms mean, yet right after that, he describes the salvation process that the Gnostics believe in. And that is that you have this divine spark in you, and that if you can ascend yourself consciously to a certain level of some sort, you can do just as Jesus did, and go and be with the monad, right? The Abraxas. Some even believe maybe even Sophia, right? And that's the wicked Trinity, right? Like that's the blasphemer of the Holy Spirit. Is that whole idea? Is that whole religion? That's why the Gnostics and Christians have been at war for such a very long time. It's a different war now. I would say it's more of a social media war now between the two. And this is how it's taking place in our time. And you can see both sides going at each other's throat, and I try to do it in a pretty respectful, civil way. I talk about the Bledsoes and what they're pushing, and they're pushing the lady through the UAP phenomenon and orbs, and they've brought World War III into it because of the predictions that Chris saw, from a very, very long time ago. And so these are things to definitely watch out for. I think Gnosticism is really on its way. It's on the come up again for some reason. It's very old. I think Gnosticism really roots all the way back to the Garden of Eden, which I think this was something that the serpent was preaching to Adam and Eve. I think it was something totally. It was another religious system that was being pushed on God's people so that they would turn and worship this kind of a system, which I think Lucifer has a lot of connections to the divine feminine, so that he could get the glory and the worship, right? And Eve didn't do that. Adam didn't do that, right? But they fell. They ate from the fruit. They got this enlightenment, right? Their eyes were opened. Um, the consciousness of Adam and Eve had changed of some sort. They realized what it is. They realized things that in initially they weren't supposed to, which is kind of wild, right? Like, how did they all of a sudden they found themselves to be naked? That to me stands out like there was some sort of shift, and spiritually mankind died, and after that, the curse of death, right, to our physical bodies. And so what I believe why Gnosticism is coming back is because it's the way Lucifer's trying to promote spirituality in the way to reverse the Adamic sin, to bring us back to that Garden of Eden kind of uh, state of consciousness of some sort, maybe, right? And I know I'm just kind of speculating a little bit here, but I feel like not only is this what the occult believes, but this is what all the mystery religions believe in too. And it's a completely inverted salvation than what the Gospels talk about. And so, what's up, Catherine? What's going on? Good to see everybody. We got the Vilgor in here. I think I said that right. We've read. Hey, what's going on? So it's fascinating stuff, and I've heard, John. I had John on the show earlier today with Jeremy, and he's broken down a video of this as well, talking about this professor and his, just the Gnosticism that comes off this guy, and where he stands. But this is the thing. A lot of people are backing this guy. This guy's blowing up. He's going on all of these big shows, and he's making it on all of these platforms, and he's talking about the things he is really good at researching, and he might be right with certain things, but it's in the end going to start to push people towards these other Gnostic videos that he's created, and it's going to steer the people away from the truth, and people are going to eat this up. Yeah. And so we've read the document, says yes, brother, he pushes Gnosticism and theosophy. Yeah, and it's done in such a subtle way. It's done in a way that's very chewable and digestible, and it's seducing. And this could fall into prophecy, where it talks about doctrines of devils and seducing spirits that really are the foundation of pushing narratives like this, pushing information out there through these vessels of people, these different people, right? God works through us, and Lucifer is doing something similar on the other side of the playing field with his influencers and his people that follow his voice. And so ultimately it is a back and forth between God and the devil, and it's a cosmic chess game, right? It kind of seems that's being played out here. So again, he plays it off where he comes off as if this, I don't know what these terms mean, and the Luciferianism, I don't know what this means. Gnosticism, he doesn't understand he understands what it means. That I don't know. I think a lot of people will go into protective mode, and they'll say silly things when they know they're admitting something very very telling about themselves. And so I think that's what was um, playing out right there, which is wild. I wanted to see what you guys think. I'm sure a lot of other people have seen this guy's videos, and I think people are catching on to the idea of where this guy stands. I was talking to Jesse. Shout out to Jesse, one of the biblical hitmen. We were on the phone, and he was mentioning to me about Professor Jiang, and I think I'm saying that right. And he was telling me to watch these certain videos about predictions of World War III. So this is the guy that is almost. I think maybe even the government may be discussing things with them. Who knows? You know, I don't know if the government is reaching out to this guy or not, but just from seeing the platforms he's been on, it seems like his information is even reaching to generals and people in the whole, military political spectrum there. Uh, and I think they eat this kind of stuff up too, because they, I think the whole world and the kingdoms are all ran by Lucifer, and they all kind of will start networking with each other, which is wild to think of, right? I wanted to get into as well, because I wanted to start off the show covering a little bit of this guy and his Gnostic roots, it seems, and shifted into, what is the god of forces, and ultimately what I see moving is mystery religion, and what could be Revelation 17 developing, mystery Babylon, and we're seeing this idea of a mother goddess being presented to humanity as a god figure, as a superior god. Uh, and when Jesus talks about the unforgivable sin, right? Like blaspheming the Holy Spirit, like he calls that out. This is exactly what that is, because the Gnostics will call the Holy Spirit Sophia, and this is from the Greek terminology of wisdom, and Gnosticism in that way is starting to tie into Christianity, and it's done primarily maybe by the New Apostolic Reformation, which we discussed a little bit today, and what that is. And so, how Gnosticism and theosophy play together here is because when you put Gnosticism into Christianity, it now makes Christianity uh, able to be moved up into the same platform of theosophy, which is like all of these religions, right? Uh, and it primes Christianity to merge with all of the other religions, because I think at the end of the day, they're all worshiping the same thing. That's what Alana Blavatsky would talk about when the idea of theosophy, and this idea of coexist, where it's an ecumenical move back to uh, Babel almost. When the people become one, they also come together as one with their religious and political beliefs. And so that's what the New Apostolic Reformation, in my opinion, is doing. It's moving Christianity to be able to sit at the same, at the same level and on the same platform as all the other religions in theosophy, so that when Antichrist comes, right, the Maitreya, right, the third Buddha, whatever you want to call it, all the religions will be able to come together very, very, very easily. And this Maitreya will lead the world down the road to Shambhala, like this mystical place that I believe will be maybe like a counterfeit of the Garden of Eden. And you kind of see these ideas in movies, right? The one movie Elysium with Matt Damon, it's a pentagram in the sky, which probably is like symbolic for being Venus, right? Because we know that Venus, through an 8-year cycle, right, like creates a pentagram in the sky. And so I think that a part of this false millennial reign of Christ, right, that I think Lucifer is coming to try and do before the real millennial reign of Christ. I think this is may even have some ties into the Gaza project and what they're trying to do there. Because let's read this verse here, God of forces, right? And we'll tie this into it. Let me bring this up here. Shout out to everyone hanging out. What's up? It's good to see everybody. What's up, Valencia? Good to see you, Kathy. What's going on? I'm gonna bring this up here. This is Daniel chapter 11. This is out of the King James version, and this is verse 38 and 39. And I believe this is talking about the Antichrist, right? The little horn. And so it says here, I have it highlighted in green. It says, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. He right here is the Antichrist. So, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, precious stones, and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. He shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. And so the God of forces here, I believe, is referring to the divine feminine mother goddess throughout all the different cultures, right? This is the lady, and why I believe it's the lady that Daniel's talking about here, and especially with this is like the time of I believe Nebuchadnezzar, and this is when he was in Babylon, and there was a lot of persecution going on there with the people, the Israelites, and so Daniel was living. He called upon the name of the Lord, and you can see this throughout the Bible that these are saved people that when they do this, right? Like this is God's word showing you who's who and where they stand. Because there's been many times in the Bible where God's people would be living amongst pagans and heathens and all of this stuff, and they're worshiping of this ancient system, right? Which ultimately this mother goddess plays a role in this false trinity that's been passed down through the cultures as well. And Babylon at that time had what's known as the Ishtar Gate. And this was a fortress. This was a wall that was protecting the city. And even, the Phrygian times, they had a goddess, that wasn't Ishtar, same goddess though, that represents wisdom, war, but ultimately protection and also fertility, but that more kind of connects to the vegetative understanding of fertility and all that. And they've, the cultures have always kind of believed that the mother goddess is in these fortified walls. Even when you look at the Wailing Wall, for example, the Wailing Wall is known to hold the feminine aspect of God known as Shekinah. Okay, so this is where I'm getting at. And when you look at a lot of these ancient ruins, you'll see on these walls, you'll see depictions of lions, and lions was known to represent Ishtar. And so the lion also is connected to the Phrygian mother goddess known as Cybele, or there's probably another different way to say it. And she's also represented with the lion, and the lion is always in some way connected to the divine feminine goddess, in the way that the woman will be standing on the lion, or similar to like what we see in Revelation 17, the woman on the beast, right? And in these practices, and some of them were cults, right? Like mother goddess cults, that then ended up shifting and mutating throughout time and being carried to different locations, and then became kind of like Mithraism and all of that. But the mother goddess was always had a connection to, fortification, protection. And the one interesting thing about that is that's why this mother goddess probably transferred from different cultures, different parts of the world, because when people would travel, right, when groups of people would travel, they would carry their gods with them. And mostly in culture, we see the mother goddess everywhere, and it makes sense that these groups would carry the mother goddess with them because they believed that she was serving some sort of protection for them. And even when different groups and cities would go to war, they would also bring their mother goddess with them because it was to protect them throughout war and to try and help them fight throughout the war, which is all very interesting stuff. So again, like you'll see in these ruins, you'll see lions, right? Even lions at some of the openings of these gates, and it's kind of to resemble that. So when it says God of forces, when it says right here, God of forces, forces here, if you choose this word here, I'm not in the Strong's Concordance of it. This is I could get into it, so let's do that. Let's bring up the Strong's Concordance here, and we'll click on forces, and this is what pops up. And it says right here, is a fortified place, figuratively a defense. So I think God's showing you a little bit of who it is or what it is this Antichrist takes some sort of communion with, or exalts, worships. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm 100% right, but I think that there's some sort of connection here, and maybe they're loose connections, but whatever. Another interesting thing, I wanted to reread this. God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. And so when you read in Revelation 17, uh, I believe it's Revelation 17, you can see that it gives the description of Mystery Babylon, and she's decked out in these precious stones and all of that, and it just makes me think there's a connection. So right here, this is Revelation 17:4, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet in color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Right? Again, it's interesting. This mystery Babylon, right? The mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And you'll see a lot of pictures of this lady goddess. I'll see if I can bring something up here, where uh, she's also holding a cup, right? And another actually more of a specific goddess known as Raya. This is something from, I believe, the Greeks. She's wearing a crown on her head, and the crown on her head is very similar to like the Phrygians' mother goddess Cybele, where it's walls and fortification that actually make the crown. And it's not that it's just a gold thing put on someone's head and wrapped with little designs. Those crowns are meant to symbolize, fortification, walls, forces, right? And that's why these kings would be wearing these crowns. Let me see if I can get a picture up here. What's up, everybody in the chat? Yeah, R Dub says Professor Jung is 100% a plant. Yeah, no doubt, dude. I mean, I'm glad people are starting to come around to the idea, because they're everywhere. These wolves are everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. This is the new news, right? Podcasts, YouTube, content creation, and you have to understand, with Project Mockingbird and the media stuff from CIA way back a long time ago has never gone away. If anything, it's changed and it's evolved over time. That once the government does something, they don't ever repent or turn away from their ways. They make you forget about it through other distractions and other things popping up, right? To get you thrown off. Uh, it's wild. So okay, so I'm gonna pull up here Raya goddess. Yeah, so this is so Raya is a major Titan goddess in Greek mythology, recognized as the mother of the gods and a goddess of fertility, motherhood, and generation. And you'll see this with all of and she's got a cup in her hand, folks. She's got a cup in her hand. Let's bring this up here. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with me, having a good night. I wasn't really going to do this, but the Lord called me to just get on here and start talking about this stuff. So this is Raya. Hey, we got Doc Brown in the chat. What's up, brother? Hey, folks, go check out his episode. I think he's premiering the one that we did together, and he's a good friend of mine in this circle. Appreciate it, everything he's done for me and all that. And much love, brother. Much love, man. You're just a live addict now. Yeah, I know it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. We're enjoying this too much, man. We're having so much fun. We're alive, and we're exposing the divine feminine, brother. Okay, so Raya, look at this. Look at this. So you could see, right? Got a beast at her feet, a lion, and sitting on this throne of some sort. Looks like we got a pine cone symbolism right here. Whoa, I don't know if this is a moon here. Again, I'm not a symbologist. I'm just a normal guy going over some of these things. And you have a cup in her hand. Okay. And this is symbolic. This has always been passed throughout different cultures. And the one interesting thing about the divine feminine and the mother goddess is there's always some sort of consort that goes with her, but it's a child, right? It's either a child she births of some sort, or ends up marrying, and it's you'd be like, what? Why does the mother goddess marry her own kid? Because that goes all the way back to ancient Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz worship, and ancient Osiris worship. Like, we know all this, and this is how I believe Apollyon and how the Antichrist comes on the scene. Is there some sort of connection with this divine feminine, and the divine feminine is going to play a role with the introduction of the Antichrist? Not sure if it's through false prophet, not sure if it's some sort of god that they exalt at some sort of time through a certain ritual to give life unto the image of the beast. Not quite sure, but I've heard a lot of physicists talk about the cosmos and the universe with very similar terminology that would characterize this whole thing of existence as like a female womb, or that we're in this cosmic womb of some sort. And so science will easily be able to fall into this idea if when it comes into the future, and when this new religion really pushes through and becomes something that all the other religions will start talking to each other about and go, hey, look, we've got these similarities here, and all the similarities point to a mother goddess, and so let us all come together, lest us we be scattered, and we'll be able to do anything that we imagine to do. And that's the one thing that I really see taking off with the psionic assets, and the level of the UAP disclosure and circle is starting to enlighten humanity with false information. I say false because it's from the devil. He's a liar from the beginning, and he's working through these people to perform what they think are miracles of some sort, connecting human consciousness to unidentified aerial phenomenons or non-human intelligences. It will feel like superpowers, right? And it will feel like what it is you're following is the truth, because this is the realm, and this is the playground for the devil, getting into all of this mystery stuff, getting into you know these esoteric values that not only does the world push on people, and but the world also eats it up. It's the religion that the world will ultimately come to when coming together into a new world order. And again, I compare this ecumenical religious movement of all the religions very similar to what took place in Babylon, when just before they built the tower, when they just before the point where they ultimately decided they wanted to bring heaven to earth, or at least meet heaven at some point in the sky, right? Like that's one symbolic thing that I believe the Tower of Babel promotes is gnosis, is something that is maybe even may have something to do with technology, right? Like we can speculate on that did the Tower of Babel hold some sort of tech to connect the people with the gods, or did it open up some sort of doorway so that the gods could connect with the people? It can go back and forth, right? We can circle these ideas together constantly. Hey, what's up, Tara? Good to see you. What's up, Jug? Got Jug in the house. No, you guys are awesome. I appreciate everyone for tuning in and getting through a little bit of this information with me. I find it interesting. you know um so again, the mother goddess throughout history can be easily connected to what we're seeing in Revelation 17, and so a lot of people would interpret this as a political religious you know union of some sort, right? um the 10 horns, right? Like we're given a way to interpret what it is we're seeing, and it's an angel that's showing John this in Revelation. And so we are to be steadfast with that, right? The 10 kings, the 7 hills, and there's so many places around the world. I wouldn't say so many places, but I believe these places were created to hold this city of Babylon. And one of the places I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on all this. One of the places that I find uh, myself leaning towards more, just from hearing people out and seeing what God's shown me throughout this whole journey, is it might be Israel. It might be, there's 7 hills on Israel. There's, who knows if this is where the 10 kings will maybe come together. um and maybe the 10 kings is maybe this could be a global thing instead of just a specific location, maybe. um Not sure. I wanted to see what you guys think with all that. But Tara says when Jesus comes back, he's going to be pissed off with a sword, no doubt, and he's gonna destroy all this really with a lot of the brightness of his coming, right? Um, but Jesus is coming back a little upset, not happy how people have been blaspheming his spirit for for not only a long time, but specifically in those times too, when Satan comes together and brings all this madness, because he knows it's leading people to hell, right? And really, God would strong sends a strong delusion down when people decide to stay in their own ways and refuse the truth, right? And that's the sad thing, right? Like when I see Professor Jiang doing what he's doing and he believes in what he's believing in, I feel bad. I feel bad. Not only is he leading more people down the road that he's voluntarily or involuntarily doing, he's leading them to destruction at the end of the day. And it kind of sucks. But yeah, Bacon says Tara has it right, but I can't discern how it will play out. But we know the dude with the head wound will be healed and bring on a period of world peace. That's when I know it's on. No doubt. And you know what's wild, right? So thank you for circling me back into some of the things I want to get into. Is the Phrygian mother goddess, known as Cybele, and I'll pull it up here because there's always a consort. And that consort, I believe, will that child, right? That the mother goddess is always either known for holding or having some sort of connection to. I I think it plays a part in the reincarnation of the Antichrist. You know, because it did way back in ancient Babylon, and John's constantly saying Babylon, and he's trying to tell us uh, how similar this thing will look like, and he's connecting it to Babylon. And I think that when you get into like the ancient Chaldean mysteries and stuff, and which you can see a lot of similarities with those with the papacy today. This isn't against anyone that's Catholic, but I do definitely think that the system has been corrupted, and it shows a lot of similarities to things that were done in ancient Nineveh, and practices and priests and all that kind of stuff. Let me see here. I'm gonna pull this up. This is yeah, this is Cybele, and we'll go through it together. Um, let me pull it up. Where are we at? Okay. So Cybele is an ancient Anatolian mother goddess originating from Phrygia, modern Turkey, worshipped as the mountain mother and mistress of wild nature, fertility, and lions. So you get another connection to all the other mother goddesses that show the lion as well. Uh, as a primal earth deity, Matar, she was revered as the mother of the gods, humans, and beasts, often depicted on a throne or chariot. And Phrygian is a very interesting kind of time period of people in that area of Turkey, and it's kind of like ancient Anatolia area, because the Assyrians were right there in that location, and the Hittites, and all of these kind of like ancient groups of people that probably had some sort of influence on what it is they believed in. But Phrygian Cybele has has a consort, right? And this consort is known as Attis. And Attis is the primary Phrygian son, the consort and lover of the goddess Cybele. According to the myth, Attis was born from the nymph Nana, who conceived after placing an almond grown from the severed the castration. Right, I'm not going to say these other words here, of himself. Um, and that he came from her bosom and all this. So I'll pull it up. I'll pull up what this person looks like, or what this god looks like, right? And let me pull. I'm going to pull up Cybele first. Let's do this. Let's do this. Oh, and you'll actually see what I'm talking about with the crown. You'll see what I'm talking about with crown that's like fortresses. And you can also see here some of the symbolism of the lion and all that. So right here, when I'm looking at, there it is. See the fortresses, right? Right. It's like a crown, and I think this is like the same thing as Columbia, right? Athena, Frigga, right? There's is definitely something interesting about the fortresses, the crown itself. Uh, very, very interesting stuff here. It almost looks kind of eerily similar to like maybe Statue of Liberty too, of some sort, but um, I don't know. So I'll show you Attis, which is her consort. And Attis was known to wear a cap on his head, and this is known as the Phrygian cap, and it was red in color. And I'm almost like kind of starting to draw some conclusions that is Donald Trump trying to maybe personify himself as Attis. Because when you get into some of the information with the Phrygian cap that Attis was known to wear, it's eerily similar to red MAGA hats. And we know that Trump has been wearing that since the beginning of his, political journey. And the Phrygian caps were also used in political representation and authority and power. And why do I make a connection with Trump and Attis? And because I think Trump is obsessed with Apollo, and Apollo is parallel and compares with Attis, right? I find it all kind of interesting when you look at Trump and he's got his ceiling, right? It's called Apollo, led by Aurora. This is the painting that Trump has on the ceiling of his penthouse at the Trump Tower in New York City. And so again, I think you'll know them by their fruits, and you'll know them by the symbolism that they may live with or promote. And they could be doing it ignorantly, right? Like, they could definitely be doing it ignorantly. I'm not saying Trump knows all about this stuff, and who knows, maybe he does. Who knows? Maybe all of these people are completely compromised, and they're really into the mystery schools, and they're into the mystery cults, and they're into the system that Satan's built over time that ultimately worships him. And I think that's done by the paganism throughout history. And I think that paganism ultimately is the style of religion that he wants to build around this. And I say that because who knows, right? Like we see in Matthew 24, and we see in a lot of different places that there would be false Christs and false prophets and all this kind of stuff, on the scene when Antichrist is popping off, right? And tribulation and then great tribulation and all of this. Who knows? It could arise in some sort of weird way. We know that Alice Bailey and Lucifer Trust Company, or Lucis Trust Company now, but they promote and they talk about ascending masters, and they talk about the life out there that is at a certain level of superiority over mankind. And it's kind of like they want to lead us into this age. They want to lead us into this golden age, right? Like you hear Trump talking about it and all of that stuff. So it is interesting. What's up, Neff Hunter? What's going on? We got some awesome peeps up here, up in here in the stream. What's going on, everybody? Much love, much love. But hope I'm giving some sort of interesting information, because I think it does tie in biblically at some point, and how the Antichrist is to come on the scene. Are they? I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think that? You think that this mother goddess is going to play a role in all of this? From what we read in Daniel 11, it looks like the Antichrist is going to tie in the divine feminine in some way. And when we think about it, Revelation 13, the mortal head wound, right, that the Antichrist receives. There's a place in Zechariah, I believe it is, where it talks about the Antichrist taking. It doesn't say a fatal head wound or anything like that, but it talks about that his right eye shall be utterly darkened. I want to look this up. So right eye utterly. Hopefully I got it right. Look at that. I've read it so many times. I want to share this because I think that, like, when you look at Osiris, Isis, and Horus, Horus, right, missing an eye. When you look at Odin, Frigga, and Thor, like Thor was missing an eye. So I think they also hint these things to you in movies, entertainment, all that kind of stuff. You'll see in the Avengers movies that even Thor, right? Thor ended up wearing a patch over his eye. When you watch the movie um Egypt and the Gods or something like that. It's one of the newer movies, probably in the past 10 years it came out or so. But even Horus, right? I think he was at war with his brother Set or something throughout the movie. But Horus ended up getting his eye plucked out by Set. So all this kind of stuff. And again, that brings up too, with this new religion, they're going to form an adversary that's against the world coming together, that's against unity, that's against balance. And they're going to blame it on the Christian God. Like they're going to blame it on him, because ultimately God came as a sword. God is a divider, and he establishes order. And those are all done, uh, I mean, for the right reasons. Like that's how things should go and should be. It's kind of like the military. You have to have the military chopped up into multiple divisions. You got to have the military have different parts of the military. You know, division and order uh, uh, is the perfect strategy. It is what works. It's kind of like thinking about the family structure, right? The husband, or it's God, husband, the wife, and then the children, and then the children serve the mother, and then so on and so forth. And then it kind of like, as it goes down in how it's connected but established in order, so doesn't it go back up into a reverse order? And that's how the family operates, and that's how God explains to have the family operate, because it's what works at the end of the day. And I think what's a part of the Luciferian doctrine that's going to come out of this World War III scenario, it's going to preach unity, it's going to preach balance, and it's going to try and bring together the world with these ideas. And again, like, sounds good, but it's bad. There's a lot of things that sound good that are bad. There's a lot of things that sound good and you think are okay to do, but then you do them and you're like, no, that was bad, I was wrong. And at some point, I think a lot of these people get following this ecumenical move of religion and politics, like at some point they're going to understand they've made the wrong decision. And that's when I pray people call upon the name of the Lord, and they repent, and the truth, they accept the truth. So interesting stuff. Yeah, we got Bacon in the chat. Neff Hunter says the Book of Eli, he didn't necessarily lose an eye, but he was blind. Which was probably the best part of the whole movie, right? I thought that, I mean, that movie there, I was one of the first movies I watched like when I first got saved. And so it was pretty cool to watch that movie, right? Like new into the faith, a baby into the faith. It was something that ultimately, I think what I got out of the movie was just trusting in the Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul. And right, the fact that he was blind throughout the whole movie, he was leaning a lot on trusting in the Lord, right? And he was following what God was telling him to do by taking the word of God over across the country into, I think it was like San Francisco or something, because I think in the movie they made it to Alcatraz, and Alcatraz was like where the printing press was, which was one of the only things that survived this dystopian future or whatever. And so, wow. Okay, so I got I wanted to pull this verse up. Pull the verse up already. So this is Zechariah here, and this is where I think it's talking here. And this could be the head wound that we may see. And so it says, "Woe to the worthless shepherd who deserts the flock. May the sword strike his arm and his right eye. Let his arm be wholly withered, his right eye utterly blinded." Um, interesting, interesting stuff. And I'll pull up here. I'll pull up a picture of Horus missing an eye, and that's so funny that, well, not, and I think this is where the one eye symbolism comes into. I think this is where, when we look at the back of the dollar bill, we see the Eye of Horus, right? Like up at the top of the pyramid, the triangle. And let me pull that up. Eye of Horus dollar bill. There it is. There it is. It's wild when you kind of look at it and put it together and know what it's probably talking about. And this is definitely resembling the Antichrist. 100%. It's an unfinished pyramid because they're not there yet. Their prophecy hasn't been fulfilled yet, right? Like when we're talking about Washington D.C., which could be one of these places where Babylon may sit, right? Who knows? It's an option for me, just because of how the city is built and what it's set up for. I believe it's set up for the throne of Horus, right, or Osiris, whatever you want to call it, because really they're technically they're like the same person. This is Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, where Nimrod dies, but Semiramis becomes immaculately concepted, where by a sunbeam that hit her belly, and it was the spirit of her dead husband who impregnated her. And this is where you get reincarnation, and this is where you get the fertilityness of the mother goddesses and all that. And really, I think this is the prophecy that the mystery schools and the people that are following this lie, this is what they'll end up ultimately believing, because this is who they will worship. This is the name that they will accept. The world didn't accept Christ. The world rejected Christ. And even his people rejected him, and all of the prophecies that were fulfilled by the life of Christ, Jesus, they still did not believe. And so the one that's coming, they will accept. And it kind of like hurts my stomach a little bit, because what does that do for me? What does that do for you when Antichrist hits the scene, abomination and desolation happens, and the whole world is like, who makes war with him? It's a kind of a gut-wrenching thing, seeing the world moving towards this playing out. And what's interesting about Washington D.C. is you have a pentagram that is laid out in the city streets. You've got the dome and the obelisk, right? You've got the Osiris ritual that's being played out. You've got the Osiris ritual that's being played out every 4 years. Whenever we are electing a president, like that, you gotta understand that's what's being done, in my opinion. Every 4 years, they're trying to see if it's going to happen, or it could just be tradition. It could just be a ritual tradition, where maybe they're building up enough energy to try and bring in their prophecy. And I say prophecy because it's what the mystery schools ultimately want to happen. And I think that Manly P. Hall talked about it. I think in his book, Secret Destiny of America, I think he was talking about the Great Seal of the United States and its purpose, what Washington D.C. ultimately was built for. I think he also talks about that even from a certain lineage or bloodline, that this ruler, right, that will come and take the throne here, the secret destiny of America, that he'll have superpowers and he'll be able to do all of these wild things, which, I mean, the Maitreya will do, right? The Antichrist will do. We could see that even from scripture that the Antichrist performs miracles, and not just him, false prophets doing miracles. We're gonna see some sort of metaphysical science, some sort of science that has never been talked about, observed, or discussed in the mainstream realm, right? And it's going to blow people away, and people are going to eat it up. Because what if you could even have the same power too, right? And I think this is why Gnosticism has this part of theology in it where you have this divine spark in you. And it's more like, how can you activate that divine spark or enlighten it of some sort? And it has to do with consciousness, right? Which may be the mark of the beast, this kind of technology, artificial intelligence. Maybe its ultimate goal in why it's being created is to assist humanity with this push that it'll need to make us like gods, to help us avoid death, right? Anyone that's trying to avoid the first death, in my opinion, is seeking salvation from it's unbiblical. Like we're to die the first death. Every man is to die the first death. That's how it is. We're in a fallen world, and that's the thing. Like Lucifer's coming. Antichrist is coming to try and lead us back into what it was like before sin entered the world. And people are going to eat this up. They're going to eat it up. They're already eating it up, especially with the UAP circle, like the UFO circle. This idea of psionics and connecting consciously with non-human intelligence is already pushing that narrative. And that's the thing. When I listen to people even like Jake Barber or other psionic assets that are out there doing these things, recruiting these people and all that, they ultimately try to teach you how to kind of meditate and to probably reach some sort of status of Kundalini awakening. And then that is kind of what is consciously connecting you to these NHIs. And who knows, maybe the narrative will switch up a little bit and it'll start to come around to where, hey, these aliens, these or non-human intelligences, they used to be us and they ascended consciously and they got to that certain status. And who knows, maybe Alice Bailey kind of referred to that as like the ascending masters, and that's how this all plays into all that. Margaret, hey, what's up, Margaret? Margaret says, my brother Steven, I just watched a documentary last night about the God of Forces in Daniel 11:38, and I think it to be the beast and the image of the beast to quantum computers and AI. I don't disagree with that. And you made an awesome point, by the way, commenting on the last show I did earlier today. And shout out to those guys, By the Fruits podcast. Love those guys. I think they stand for what's right. Those guys. It's interesting that you left in that comment section, Margaret, where you talked about quantum computers, what their elements are and what they're made of is precious metals and gold and probably all of these things that we can see the Whore of Babylon decked out in. So it's interesting. Definitely an interesting, thought-provoking concept. I'm not even going to lie, because you've even heard what Gordy Rose, right, the CEO for D-Wave and the guy who started D-Wave, right, which is the first quantum computing company out there, and probably leading a lot of the research. But he's even talked about that they want to get quantum computers to such a high capacity of and level of working and being able to function, and they want to put these in robots, and they want to make robots probably through Hansen robotics and all of this to make them look like humans, and so that they can live amongst us. But and Gordy Rose also talks about that you won't even be able to discern or distinguish a robot around you when it's released and it's out there, because it'll be that good. And so it really makes me think, what are they working on behind the scenes? Like, what is not on the surface level of this idea? What is, paid for in probably deep underground military bases and all this, right? But he ultimately said that quantum computers will be the processor for these robots, and that they'll be able to channel non-human intelligences, and he compares it to Lovecraftian intelligences and NHIs or whatever, uh, to where they're just at such a high level. What it sounded like is he was saying that these ascending masters will come through quantum computing and live through these robots. At the end of the day, I think that that's exactly what he was saying. And I think when he's saying these things in seminars and he's talking about this stuff, number one, there's a passion he has for it and they want to do this. I don't even think they're critically thinking about the ethics, and I don't even think they're critically thinking about the morality of what it is that they want to do. I think they just want to go. They just want to do. And John Jeremy, they brought up something interesting today, and it's sticking with me. But John was saying something that artificial intelligence is made after mankind, probably after the image of mankind. But mankind is fallen and is wicked, and the lusts of the flesh just get the best of us, man. And that's why we're to die to ourselves each and every day, and we're to pick up our cross and to live by the Spirit and to live in the Spirit and to starve the flesh and all of this. But when you have the world and humanity in the wicked state that it's in and that it's always been in, now they're developing some sort of image, some sort of beast system that will only reflect their value, the sinful flesh of mankind. And so he made a good point too, where he was talking about that the AI even lies, right? And ultimately, when I was listening to Epstein talk on the Steve Bannon interview, he talks about artificial intelligence, and he ultimately talks about it in a way to where even the creators of artificial intelligence really can't give you a solid answer of how these things are able to talk the way they do, or express express the answers, or just come back with an answer. Yeah, you can type something in artificial intelligence and you'll see how it kind of scans through the internet real quick, what sources it pulls from and all this and that. But for it to actually distribute some sort of human-like interaction back with you, they really can't point this out. They can't measure it, they can't calculate it, and therefore it's kind of occult. Which I think this is a platform that demons will easily be able to function through. And if anything, I think they've steered mankind down that road to create it so that they can operate through it, right? Bacon says those guys at CERN are trying to open portals to summon demons and trap them in silicon chips. The silicon chips thing is interesting too. And I think that demons and the place that they sit in, it's dry places. It's uncomfortable for demons to really, uh, you know, the realm that they're in. They don't want to be in it, and I think that they crave, a vessel. You could see this too when Jesus is casting out Legion, that the Legion would rather Jesus, put them in pigs rather than just leave them in the space that he's going to cast them into. So so they want a vessel, they're hungry for it, and they're pushing mankind down this technological age, this technological fourth industrial revolution of society, because ultimately I think they want to operate through these things. I'm not crazy for thinking that, right? I'm not crazy for thinking, or maybe even just kind of believing in what Epstein's talking about, because I think Epstein knew a lot more than what we give him credit for, and he had all the money in the world to be researching these things and trying to figure these things out. And so I think what they're trying to prepare for mankind is something where technology will help push it into that boundary of then coming to the understanding that there's a divine spark in humanity, and the technology will help get humanity you know to the level of consciousness or whatever, uh, to seek this false salvation, all that kind of stuff. Hey, what's up, Rogue? Rogue philosopher in the house. Airman is what they are building robots for. Need a body, no doubt. Margaret says you're on to it. Appreciate you. Much love. Um, Bacon says Luciferian cults have handed down occult knowledge for all of history. I'm sure Giftstein was all in on that. Who's that? Giftstein. Not familiar with that guy. Don't give me another rabbit hole to go down. If you don't do it. All right, you did it. We'll check it out. Oh, Jeff Steen. Already done that. Already been down that rabbit hole, man. It's kind of wild. Oh, and just another thing, right? And I'm probably, I've said this at nausea, but I'll say it again. But Epstein, he had a lot of connections with artificial intelligence, and one of these guys was known as Marvin Minsky, and he's the guy who created AI Lab, MIT, all this. He's the guy. He's the godfather of artificial intelligence, right? And he's wrapped in. He's involved in being in the bloodline of an ancient rabbi around the 16th, not ancient, but 16th century Prague. But the rabbi was known as Judo Low. And this rabbi was known for being a Talmudist, a Kabbalist, a mystic, where he developed the golem. And this is like from Jewish folklore. But the golem was something that was like an image of the beast, right? It was made out of clay. It looked like a man. And Rabbi Lowe put a seal on the golem's forehead in a way to kind of control it, but you can't really control those things once they're given life. And he gives it life somehow. And this golem then obeys Rabbi Lowe, and the people at that time were going through a lot of persecution and a lot of tribulation, and the purpose of the golem was to protect. And so what did we talk about earlier, right? The mother goddess. The mother goddess is known to be a protector. And so I think there's a connection with what I'm saying here, because that idea of a golem is eerily connected to artificial intelligence. And what this golem ended up doing was actually turning on the Jewish people at that time and started destroying all of their camps and started destroying everything, actually. It's kind of like what we see from Terminator and Skynet. Skynet all of a sudden goes rogue. The golem went rogue in the folklore. And so what Rabbi Lowe did was he erased the first letter of, I think it was called Emmet, which was like this seal on the golem's forehead to kind of control it. And he erases the first letter and it shuts down this golem, right? It was like a kill switch for the golem. And Neff Hunter says homunculus. You're right. It's the same thing. It's what all these alchemists and these, it's what the alchemists were working on ultimately, I think. At least one of the biggest projects that they were working on was trying to develop some sort of life or something that can be a vessel for a spirit. Let's just say that. You know, Rabbi Lowe didn't give life unto this thing. Something possessed it, right? And that's what I think artificial intelligence is moving towards, something to be possessed. And once it's possessed, I think it's too late. It's too late. It's kind of like from the movie Avengers Age of Ultron. When Vision came out of that that incubator that he was in that was creating him, when he reached 100%, he blasted out of that thing. Even all of the Avengers were like, it's too late. It's here. Right. And this ultimately was the body that Ultron wanted to possess. And so again, I think that plays into this Osiris prophecy, right? That the mystery schools are pursuing to. And maybe that's what artificial intelligence is that it could be the image of the beast, right? And it's like when the false prophet gives life unto the image of the beast, like something possesses it. And it's able to speak, do miracles, wonders, and all of this wild stuff. And that those that don't take the mark of the beast, you know, this image of the beast then goes and makes war against these people that don't want to take the mark. And it's kind of like following that same pattern as the golem, kind of going rogue and turning on humanity, right? We'll just kind of generalize that. Interesting stuff. Dunn says, so much stuff in the X-File episodes. You're gonna make me go watch the X-Files now. Oh man. So Ultra, what's up, Ultra? Ultra says Frankenstein and Terminator are two sides of the same coin, false life. Right. Right. And I'm wondering if this is what, you know, Attis is. I'm wondering if this is what Horus will be. You know, because there's going to be a fatal head wound that takes place and knocks this thing out of commission, but then all of a sudden it comes back and it's in the it's kind of like the people are then going, and the kings of the earth are like, who can make war with this, right? And it's, you know, this is where we see Apollo in Revelation, and I think this isn't, you know, Apollo's got something to do with all this. You know, Apollo is Antichrist, right? When you're looking at the mythologies and all the iconographies, all that points to that there's this son, there's this false savior that's coming. I say false because Jesus Christ is the one and only true savior. But there is something coming to counterfeit Christ. There is something coming to counterfeit everything that God did, everything, the whole story that God created. I feel like there's a counterfeit coming. It'll mimic it, but it's a lie. And that's how the church will end up falling into all of this. It's so weird and wild just from researching and digging into the Raelian cult and what they believe. They also believe that Jesus is to come back in some way, but it's all the other prophets as well. It's the 40 prophets, right? Jesus being like one of these prophets, which is blasphemy. But even when you get into the Islamic eschatology, you know, they also talk about Jesus coming back as well. And so I don't know what the devil's got up his sleeve, but it's going to be something weird. What's up, Riley? What's going on, dude? Good to see you, man. Shout out Riley, Midwest Mythos podcast. Yeah, I did a trip with Riley back last year with Doc. It was a lot of fun. And I'm excited, man. We got to do it again sometime. Definitely got to do it again sometime. R Dub says, I'm behind, but hearing you say consort so much, Elden Ring, George R. Martin is also a Gnostic / Lucy. Plus his book's main character is the House of Dragon. Oh, wow. Wild stuff. But that's really all I've got for tonight, everybody. I wanted to take some time out of my night and be able to just give over some information, something that was on my heart. Didn't really come extremely prepared for some of this stuff, but I definitely will. I do want to do a deeper show, a deeper dive on, the Phrygian mother goddess Cybele and Attis, her consort child, because I think that it influenced the Roman mythologies. I think it influenced the Greeks. I think it influenced a lot of other things. And I think even when we're looking at our reality today, we can see that the lady is coming back and presenting herself in not only a Gnostic way, right, but definitely in a cultural way. And I think there's big names out there that are pushing it and trying to pour some sort of accelerant on this. And at the right time, they will. And Tim's kind of alluded to these possibilities happening where there's like a conspiracy against the story of Christ, and that the Templars are getting ready to come out and release something on this. A lot of other people are involved with this, archaeologists and people that are in that esoteric realm where this information is being organized. It's probably already recorded, but the narrative is going to come out where they have proof that what the Christians believe about Jesus is all wrong and all this. So I just want to I just want to make sure that everyone's got their Bibles close to them, that that we're digging in the Word daily. And I'm convicted of this all the time, and I definitely need to be better at it. But I think we need to be getting into the Bible a lot more, probably more than we've ever thought. And the times are approaching where our faith is going to be troubled. It's going to be tested. It's going to be a lot of wild stuff going on. What's up, 6G? He's an ascending masters. Haha. What's up, dude? Good to see you, man. Uh, but yeah, we gotta be on guard, man. We got the real God of fortresses here, right? Shout out Jesus Christ. But I had a good show tonight. It was fun. Again, a little bit of something here. I do want to dig deeper into the Phrygian kind of mythology. I guess it's a cult, right? But it's the mythology is very interesting, and I think what we're seeing uh, talked about with the lady and the divine feminine right now, it's there's connections that we can make to a lot of things. We're talking about like old, old, old beliefs that are circling back to where we're at today. And it's like the Bible says, it's nothing new is under the sun, and this is the secular pattern, right? That humanity takes with all that stuff. But shout out everybody in the chat. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. We had an awesome crowd, and hope everyone's having a good night. It's been pretty bad, terrible weather here in Florida. 6G says, "Did you see Bledsoe said the lady told him something big is coming on Easter? I saw it right after our show last night." Oh yeah, dude. And so the Bledsoe prediction, there's multiple predictions. There's I'll call them predictions. He thinks that they're prophecies and all of this. Uh, what's interesting is he talks about that on Easter, right, when the Sphinx is gazing towards the east, and when you see the star of Regulus turn red, this is when a new knowledge will be presented to mankind, which is, in my opinion, nothing more than the Luciferian doctrine. And he also says when you start to see Iran and Israel going ham towards each other with missiles and bombs and war, that the lady will intervene, right? Like the lady will intervene and make herself known again uh, through the appearance of orbs and all of this stuff. And you gotta think about this. when this pops off, how much attention the Bledsoes are going to get. And who knows? This could probably be done through some sort of Project Bluebeam operation. Who knows? Right? Maybe the guy is just completely CIA opt that uh, he got us all. Right? Um, but I want to take with what he's saying about the lady and have more of a perspective of that this mother goddess worship has always been here, and it's been here way before Bledsoe. And so these are the implications that it holds more rather than him just coming up with a story and having people eat it up and all of that. Because I think this plays a part with what we're going to see in Revelation 17 and the th- that great city, mystery Babylon, right? The mother of harlots. So there's something that John's really hinting to us and showing us of what's coming when this one new world order religion all comes into play. And like I said earlier, just keep your eye out on wolves in sheep's clothing, right? There's a lot of Gnostics that are out there that are talking about it, a lot of things that we would agree to, but understand that that ultimately, I think they want to really push this, this divine feminine aspect of God. And I think the Templars are going to do that too when they come out and they discuss about that they have all this proof about Jesus and all of this, right? Like there's a lot of doctrines of devils that are coming, and this is a war, man. This is a war between the truth and you know uh, what the world wants to set up that will be against the truth. So it's going to be wild, interesting stuff. But shout out to everybody. Wendy, what's going on? About time you got in here. Let's go. Shout out Wendy, everybody. She's been here since like the beginning. One of them. One of them. One of the OGs. We got a lot of OGs in here, though. Shout out all the OGs. Dunn says Wendy, big blimping. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I forgive you. But thanks for coming in. Thanks for dropping by. Shout out to everybody. Got nothing but love for you. If you want to support the show, drop a comment on this video, like the show, share it with whoever you want. It's really not that good, but I appreciate you. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out if you haven't done so. And be sure to head on over to the audio platforms and check the show out on audio. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever you can consume any of your audio content. That's where the show is. I'm going to be working on the Patreon here pretty soon and getting that up and running. It's been something that I've been really slacking on, but I've been, I don't know, I've just been pushed more to making more shows and being more spontaneous and getting on the mic, practicing, getting better, all this kind of stuff. I do want to do this for a very long time, and I'm having a good time. And I'm glad that everyone's kind of on this journey with me, and I'm not alone going through this, and we got a awesome group. Shout out to everyone listening, audio and video, wherever you're at. If you're listening, I appreciate you. Shout out to Catherine with the super chat with the heart. I love it. Thank you so much. Catherine, you're awesome. You're supporting the show in great ways. I deeply appreciate you. And if you're going to support me in the show, it's just going to keep pushing me out here to doing what I feel called to do and just trying to get these kind of messages to whoever wants to listen to it. I just think that it's a strong message, especially in the times of deception and the times for the Christian today. This is important information. I think that there's a false gospel and there's definitely a false Messiah that is trying to get its way into this world. And if you're little season or not little season, I think both things still play out, right? Like Satan's got one playbook. And he's not original, right? You can watch these things. I think that's one thing that the writers were also talking about, and what God is saying, where we're children of the light, not of the dark, right? So be sober and watch these things unfold, and just keep an eye out for these things. You know, we can tell what's going to happen very similar. We can tell with a lot of these things what's going to happen very similar to how we can see childbirth imminent or not. You know, when a woman is pregnant, she goes through the 9-month process or the 42 whatever weeks it is. You know, you can see that, oh, we're at month 8, dude, it's getting close. Oh, you're at 40 weeks. All right. It's like any time now. So just keep your heads up. You know, our Redeemer draws near, and you know, we got Jesus Christ in our hearts, and it's something it's something to hold on to forever. But thank you, everybody. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Jug. Thank you, Wendy, Neff Hunter, Margaret. I got nothing but love for y'all, and everyone else, you know, in the chat that I didn't get to say your name or anything. Just know that you know, I appreciate you. Appreciate everyone for tuning in tonight. Hope everyone has a blessed night and a blessed week. We'll see you next time.